All right. Hello, everyone. And happy Tuesday. Happy March. Happy all things except for coronavirus, right? Happy everything except for that.
Totally. It's Taco Tuesday, which makes me feel like Corona would be a good idea. Except for right now, Kiki.
Yes, I know. Thank you, Rachel. I totally agree. And did you hear the news that, with the coronavirus that I guess people are trying to avoid drinking Corona? It feels like that can't be true, but
I can't wait to see the marketing that comes out of this. I'm sure somebody is so excited to market Corona beer once the global epidemic and crisis gets under
whole
control.
Global epidemic thing. It's a little bit crazy.
Totally.
All right, so are you ready to get started? Everyone,
let's go.
Ready to get started?
I'm so excited.
Let's do this. Okay, so welcome to Association Chat. It's an online discussion for the association community where we warm ourselves by the virtual fire with topics of the day, welcoming thought leaders and trailblazers alike to join up in this online home for the community. I'm your host, Kiki L'Italian, and for this episode, we are addressing an acute pain that many in the association and events industries are feeling right now as the novel coronavirus that can develop into the more serious COVID-19 sweeps across countries and is increasingly impacting us here in the United States. The Association Chat audience is made up of people from the association and events industries, which are all centered around bringing people together in one way or another. So what does that mean when many of us are having to make tough decisions every day now about meetings and events, whether to cancel, whether to continue, postpone, how to navigate with so many stakeholders involved? So today's conversation will focus on how speakers can work with event planners during COVID-19, during this whole thing. And my very special guest today is Rachel Sheerin, who is a professional keynote speaker. She's a road warrior. In fact, she just jumped off stage being a keynote. Where are you right now?
I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, where it's sunny, but I can see the frozen lake outside. So it's cold.
So Rachel is our guest for today. And she usually talks about sales and how to get what you want in a way that makes you feel good. And we're going to talk with her today about how we can get closer to what we want as speakers and meeting planners working together in the middle of uncertainty. So I'm so glad you're here, Rachel. Thank you so much.
I'm so pumped. The thing about your specific group, Kiki, and you leading this movement of Association Chat, what's so special is I have a background in events and hospitality. So some of my clients are, the Ritz-Carlton and the James Beard Foundation and Sandals Resorts and things like that. And at the end of the day, hospitality and association, what really binds us is the hearts that we have to do the work that we do. And right now, you providing a space for people, I'm so pumped to be here and just kind of chat through what, I think really is at our core is that servant leadership and that servitude towards each other. And also too, trying to educate your membership on, association leaders on what they can ask for, what they should ask for, and maybe setting some really best practices and guidelines so that we can really be partners. Because I know as a speaker, I'm getting cancellations left and right. And it's not just for, we have some conferences. I'm at an association right now in Wisconsin of club managers, and I keynoted talking about burnout today, and they're not concerned. And I know that's not the case for every association. So it's not about whether or not the rainy days come. It's about what we do when it starts pouring and then the umbrella breaks and then you have a leak in your roof. And that's, I think, where we're starting to get to. So I'm pumped. Thanks for having me.
I mean, that's actually a really apt description, because not only is it raining today, but I recently had roof repairs and I am so thankful that I did. And I'm prepared for the rain that is coming, but are we prepared for coronavirus? And I think what we're seeing in the community right now is that a lot of us aren't, and a lot of us are struggling with what to do next. So, it's been in the news for a little bit. It's really just hit hard in the US in the past few weeks when we've been seeing these large cancellations, lots of people pulling out from having, I mean, sometimes even last minute, some very, very good friends of mine have actually arrived ready. They're on the ground. They're ready for their conference to go. And they stopped it right there before they could even land in some cases.
And for people that love to plan, I'd just like to say, I know this is driving a lot of people nuts on a whole nother level. They're like, no, my years of work have gone into this. So many conferences planned multiple years out. There's so much that goes into it and all the best laid plans. It's one of the hardest decisions that you're doing right now. But one of the things I think, and Kiki, I know we're going to chat about it, but one of the things I know that's so pivotal to your, I think that's in the association market right now, is really understanding the value of getting together, of providing stellar inspiration and educational content, and also, really showing value as an association, which often comes in events. And it's staggering what's going on right now. If you can't see your people, hear your people, and hug your people, and let's face it, go to the mini bar with your people, the hotel bar with your people, then that's a big part of what people in associations feel very connected to a lot of the time. These events are it's going to hurt in a number of ways. Or we can pivot it and say, is this just shoving us or nudging us to a thing that we needed to be doing anyway? This, I think, what we're going to talk about today, it's going to put a lot of associations that know that we should do something into actually doing it, and then watching membership numbers actually flourish. That's 1,000% what I think is going to happen at the end of this call and at the end of this COVID-19 coronavirus.
Well, and I'm so glad that you said that, because we've been hearing a lot of negative news. And I think a lot of people, they respond to it in different ways. Some respond to it by not wanting to hear it. And they're like, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Yeah. Some people respond to it. And it's that, I know it's not happening. It shouldn't be happening. It's not happening. And some people are saying, why? Come on, like, what is going on with this? And how, I think the most productive is, how can we best navigate this together right now? Because we've got to deal with whether, no matter where you fall on how serious it should be, the fact that the media and everybody is taking it seriously, and we are seeing the numbers come back where people are pulling out. We need to be prepared, right?
Totally.
So, okay. So let's talk about what you're seeing right now, because you would be somebody who is hearing this immediately because you're always on the road. You're like, when I reached out to you, you were giving a presentation today, you're speaking every week, you're always on the road. How is it impacting you? What are you seeing right now?
I would say that, I was in Vegas last week for the Association for Women in Events conference, which went off without a hitch. Of course, those women do a really great job, and I'm honored to be on their board. And the conversations around it, of course, these are from people in the events industry that are in the know. You're so right. People polarize so easily. It's complicated as humans to be have duality, right? You're either the sin or the saint, or, you're either happy or you're sad. And the truth of the matter is it can be both. It can be a lot of things, and it's what you choose to do with it. I think that's really making the round. So a lot of times, I will say the airports are very calm, very safe. I would say that the planes are a little more empty than they normally are. Of course, here's the thing: airlines oversell seats all the time. If anyone has ever been on a plane where you think, my God, no empty seats, that's, we have a little bit more room. It's like flying 5 years ago right now. So it's not so bad. And I would say too, in the speaker community, I know myself personally, I've probably lost about I've lost about $70,000 worth of work right now. But you have to be careful in the way that you frame it, because lost means that I've lost it. It can be in cancellations. Now, rescheduling, there's been another portion of my business that's been rescheduled. And I think, honestly, that's in a great collaboration that's thinking very hopeful with clients. And that's really a pivot. There are some people that are canceling right out. There's some people that are rescheduling, but it really comes down to what I call the big C, and that's communication.
Yeah.
We've been, some of the planners that I'm working with for association conferences, I've got 4 lined up this week. All of them are good to go. People in April, we're starting that conversation with them already and really talking with them and saying, hey, do you have a contingency plan? Would you like to discuss it? And here's kind of how this is working. Because yes, there's business involved, but here's the thing, I'm not alone. There's a lot of other speakers that are feeling it. There's so many associations that are feeling it, event planners, venues. I mean, this is something that's universal.
Yeah.
It's affecting everyone, and at the end of the day, I think this is that opportunity. And, when we talked a little bit about it, Kiki, this is why I'm so thrilled to talk about it. This can either be something that can ruin relationships or build relationships. And it can be something that hurts membership or helps membership. And I think there's some really cool opportunities. If we're just willing to get a little creative and find the right partners to work with to do it, I think that there's awesome opportunity going on right now in the association world.
So let's talk about that. Let's hear a little bit more about that, because I'm sure that the people who are on here right now, and hi to everyone who's watching. I'm looking at your names, and if you have questions, definitely ask them. I've seen a couple that are already over there in the Crowdcast Ask a Question. You can also type them over in the chat box. What are some ideas that you've seen or that you've come up with that are working well, or that you've heard about that seem to be some creative ideas that people should think about?
Totally. Great question. And I think, it's really two-sided, right? So what can the first thing is that, I encourage everyone that has an event coming up in the next 3 months to reach out to their speakers and start the conversation already. Like anybody who has ever been late on the way to family dinner, don't text when you're already running late, when you should already be there. Text when you know you're going to be late. And the same thing's true for starting a conversation. Don't wait until it's crisis. I remain hopeful that this will pass very soon, but what is the game plan if it doesn't? Is a conversation that me as a speaker, I'm starting with almost all of my clients. And just letting them know, hey, listen, this is what I can do. This is some things that I've seen other people do. And really, you all as association professionals, this is your bread and butter. You have the upper hand here to call a lot of the shots. And I want to encourage everyone that's tuning in to be very confident in your position on it. I think that sometimes there's a bravado that sometimes comes along with speakers. I always think about Mariah Carey wanting only red M&Ms and 7,000 flowers. And I've met a few speakers that are like that too. And that is awesome. But I think that there's a lot of, especially in association speakers, there's a lot of very big-hearted and similarly hearted people that say, hey, what can I do? So let's start the conversation now. The second thing I'd like to just point out is, airlines are being really, really flexible. So I had a very large chunk of my business for this month and next month bow out. I had already bought flights for the series of talks we were going to do. Called American. They were happy to give me a credit. And guess what? I'll use that credit. It's okay that I paid forward a little bit on that, but and making sure that we're getting creative in terms of suggesting things that a lot of speakers are going to be able to help you with. Don't feel so much on the hook for parts of my business that are my responsibility. So I just want to wave that over there, because you have such a big-hearted group. I think that sometimes we feel really responsible for other people, but I run my own business. And that's my responsibility to do it. So when it comes to creative ways to kind of partner with, I'll tell you a few things that I'm doing. Okay. One of the things that I'm doing is, if a client has already paid a deposit and their conference is coming up and has been rescheduled or postponed or just outright canceled, what really we have to take a step back on, I think, is what are your members expecting? And they're expecting energy. They're expecting entertainment and inspiration, and they're expecting something that they can hold up and point to and show their boss, leader, owner, peers, and say, this is why I'm a member of NACE. This is why I'm a member of CMAA, AWE, BRB, T2YL, whatever your association is called. This education opportunity is huge. And so one big word I think is just mandatory is webinars. Already get ahead of people. And that's something that I'm including for free. All speakers might not do that, but I'm including it for free on the date the event should happen. Yeah. Because there's something about the psychology of loss. I teach this in a lot of my advocating and sales strategy for introverts and stuff like that. It's this mindset around how can I help? And also, too, how can I give something before asking a withdrawal on something? I'm going to already be giving you education. I'm already going to be giving you value. right? Like, and I'm talking me as in the association, that we have a contract to do that. We're going to deliver it. And then just stick with us just a little bit. Because you know what? People who cancel, I will tell you this right now, I think they're losing such a huge opportunity if they don't do something auxiliary to help the membership. And it's not just giving lip service, it's giving them that education.
Okay, I want to pause right there for us to process. I need to process that, because I think that is amazing advice, because, you know, people have been is it the postpone? How quickly could we do a virtual component? Can we turn that around really quickly? If we do, what does that look like? And I've seen a lot of people who are trying to come up with some sort of hybrid, you know, what can we do? Because we know people aren't allowing their employees to travel. They're not reimbursing them. So they're having to stay in. And you're saying that with this psychology of loss, which is I haven't ever heard of that before. So the psychology of loss, that we need to be able to give them something if we're asking them to, you know, we're going to be asking them to do something different or taking something away. We need to offer them something.
Yeah, and that can come in so many different ways. It can come in a live stream of a back-to-back event where you have your speakers from your conference. You supplement with maybe members that are speakers. You supplement with people that are volunteering. You know, I have some incredible speaker friends. One of them I spoke with this morning. She's out of Des Moines, Iowa, and her name's Sarah Noel Wilson, and she speaks in the HR space. I mean, just incredibly transformative, huge-hearted. And, you know, I let her know about this, and she said, well, you know, if they need something, let me know. It's that kind of spirit of giving and putting together that's going to make a difference. But even more than that, you can get creative. Let's say that you do just a webinar. First of all, as a speaker, I have my own webinar software, which, by the way, at the end of this, we created a guide for you. If you've never done an online event, how to really look through it. Hopefully you've got some great video professionals that are maybe in your membership or you've used previously to use. But if not, we put together a step-by-step guide, questions to ask yourself, what to plan for, how to make the social media graphics. But one thing I mean, 2 words, watch party. Make it fun. And I will tell you, when I book a keynote, I almost always include a webinar for associations anyway. And I do it.
Oh, that's so cool.
I do that. And let me tell you why. Have you ever gone to a conference where you've seen a speaker and they are just so incredible and you're like, oh, I wish so-and-so were here, or I wish the team was here. Or of course, if it's like some kind of training or good advice, you're like, the person who really needs that advice is back at the office. Well, here's the thing. If you ask your keynote speakers to do webinars for you, I encourage watch parties, because essentially what it does is it says, because I am a member of ABC organization, this is the caliber of professional they bring in. This is the caliber of speaker you get to see at conference. This is the caliber of events and access and education, skill building, inspiration that this association provides. And that's where 2 people get to go to conference the next year.
Okay, or Vanessa, I have to butt in because Vanessa, I'm actually keynoting for somebody who's on here right now for the Empire State Society of Association Executives. And she's on here. Vanessa, are you listening? Maybe we should talk about a webinar, maybe. Yes.
That's great. Hey, Vanessa.
By the way, that's next Thursday, guys, if you're in Albany, New York. So
yes. I love Albany.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And Kiki, I mean, I think you as a speaker, I think you'd agree with me. There's any time that big-hearted speakers with messages they believe in and know are really impactful, of course they want to share it with anyone. Mm-hmm. And yes, there may be a slightly additional fee sometimes. You know, I wrap it into my fee because I want to make sure associations are getting exactly what they want. I also might be a smidge more expensive than some other speakers. I'm not, you know, 50 grand, 20 grand, 10 grand, but I'm you know, I'm a bit more expensive. And at the end of the day, what's so cool about it is at least the last time when we talked in the fall, was one of the biggest questions your membership and associations globally are asking is, how can I engage with members? Mm-hmm. How can I grow membership? And how I can keep them coming back? You can keep them coming back by making sure they get together, and not just with at conference, and getting together in any excuse to say, wow, because of this association, I'm gathered here. And by the way, full disclosure, as a speaker, it's helpful to me. I get to be in front of your leadership. And, this happened with, the convention centers. A lot of times I keynoted at ESPA, the Event Services Professionals Association, an incredible group. Shout out to them. They are like the unsung heroes of large hotels and convention centers and CVBs. And being able to see the pictures that they posted on ESPA's website from the watch parties they had, big, pizza party or a big conference table. We even had one group from Philadelphia. They had margaritas because they knew I loved margaritas. And it's stuff like that where you're like, if that is not what you want your association to be married to in people's minds, I don't know what is.
So I love this because you're saying, hey, this may be the excuse you needed to be able to try some new things. And I know that a lot of people who might be listening to this are really trying to figure out, okay, I don't know if this is trying new things because this might be mandatory. And in fact, one of the questions that I see over here, and this is kind of along the same theme of some of the other questions. We've never done a webinar. Can you suggest resources for exploring options for a meeting in 2 weeks? Or interested in how groups are adding an online component as opposed to moving to online versus canceling?
Totally.
So,
I've created a resource for you guys. So I know Kiki's going to share that link with you, but the answer is yes. The 3 services I recommend, depending on the size of your association, are if you are smaller, hanging around that 100 to 500, I would definitely suggest Zoom. If you're going to be larger, if you're going to be more in the Fortune 500 space, I think about like the banking associations, financial services associations, tech associations. A lot of times they're going to be hanging out with the GoToWebinar. GoToWebinar is kind of the old tried and true. And then there's a brand new one, which I personally really like. It's called Webinar Jam. And Webinar Jam, I like to think it's really idiot proof, which is great for me. I can barely operate my new phone. I'm starting to get to that moment where I need teenagers like you, Kiki. I need somebody to help me with technology. So Zoom, Webinar Jam, and GoToWebinar, those are all 3 really great components. And I lay it out in the guide, but I think some of the things that you've got to be cognizant of is you've really just got to be aware of what your target is and what format you want to put something in. Is it a webinar? Is it an all-day conference, multi-day conference? Is it multiple speakers coming into a room? Is it, things like that? That takes a little bit more coordination. Or is it something where maybe you do a bunch of pre-recorded webinars and then drip out the campaign, or let, a webinar a week during all this chaos? Or, because let's face it, I know a lot of my hospitality friends, they're having major cancellations. And you know what this is a great time for? Training your team. And does anybody have the budget to train their team right now? Probably not. My clients in New Orleans, I spoke with somebody last night, and $2 million in cancellations so far at their property. But all for a reason: updating training, new standards, sharpening up, getting back into prospecting. They're managing a sales team for the hotel. Like, picking the kind of education and format you want to do is important. And then what the goals are from it. Are you needing certified credit hours? I'm a big person. I love making sure that all my courses and trainings and webinars are always going to be certification approved. So you're getting people closer to those goals. You're making sure that people are seeing that value. But then also, too, are they relevant? What's great about online education is it can be very flexible. Just like this, Kiki. Part of, I think, the success you have and such a loyal fan base you have is because you just hop on. We talked on Sunday. It's Tuesday. The sun is shining, and here we're talking about it. We're not waiting and wondering and thinking, geez, somebody should do something about this. We're doing it right now. And especially associations, I know a lot of your pros, and I see them in the group when we chat. A lot of your pros have a pulse on really what their members need. It's just one of those things where there's no time to do it. I don't feel like figuring it out, like all that stuff. You know what? Full disclosure, find a speaker that already does webinars. They have the technology. I don't even have to do it, half the time. Which is great.
Look at us. We're able to talk. We jump on like this, and it's done. We could go out. We could make this a thing. No, it's well, anyway, I want to move on to talking a little bit about what people are asking from you now that you are having these conversations. I'm sure that you are hearing people say, okay, Rachel, the travel stuff, I know that you've got your travel booked. I know that you're going to be here, and we just don't know. We can't tell you for sure. Are you hearing things like that? Are people talking to you? I had the weirdest conversation. I had someone reach out to try to book me for something. It was kind of last minute for the end of March. And I said, so are you you're going to go ahead and do this? And she was kind of hesitant. And because I thought, you go through the process of booking everything and scheduling it. She said, well, honestly, I think it's not going to happen, but we're proceeding now as if it is. I thought, well, the next questions are, do you have the plan B? Do you have a virtual option? What are you going to do if that doesn't happen?
Yeah, the conversation's happening all the time. And this is with both association and corporate clients, kind of all across the board. There's just conversation. There's a few clients that I have in telecom right now that are putting travel bans left and right. And, I always make the joke. I'm like, they invented money. They just have so much money. And even then, the first thing out of their mouth is really cost-based. So I think, for your membership and your association pros, talking about the cost, obviously it's a necessary thing. Mm-hmm. Typically the way contracts are written, at least my contract's written, is that the final balance is due within 30 days. Now, am I going to enforce that? It's my choice whether or not to, and I'm not. I believe in relationships, and I think a lot of people out there are probably nodding their heads. I think the relationship is a lot more important in being there for our clients. I can't be the only one that's stressed. You guys must be stressed as well. Yeah. And I also think too, it's my job to help be creative. On the other side, depending on the way contracts are written right now, you may be on the hook for that. This is where I ask to really be mindful of your language and consider it a reschedule. Right. Yes, so, if you are working with somebody, first of all, if you're signing contracts for the next 60 to 90 days, even further beyond, totally your call on this, but I would say anything within 90 days, make sure that you're asking for a rider that basically allows you to either pay and reschedule without penalty, or gives you a tighter deadline to actually owe somebody something. And just be sure that you're aware of the contract stipulations around it. I do have speaker friends that are enforcing it because, like I said, it's me and one other team member in my business. I always wanted to be a trust fund kid, but I never found a trust fund. Yeah. So it is my money in my income and livelihood that, I'm having to adjust around. But at the end of the day, I feel like when you're good and that karma and in that spirit, I think people remember how you treat them when the going gets tough. Mm-hmm. People do talk a lot around cost. People do talk a lot around cancellations. Again, I say reschedule because there's always going to be something in the future. And great news, if you've already booked somebody or paid a deposit or paid full price, well, then guess what? It's going to be a smaller line budget item for the next year. But one thing I really encourage, your folks to do is get that out in front of the conversation and ask, what are the things you can offer in the interim? And talk about that partnership. The speaker friends that I have in the groups that I'm a part of, we talk about, not only things like webinars, but guest posts, but, a big part of my business is actually sponsorship. Large sponsors will come and sponsor my speaker fee for conferences. And so I work as a partner with associations that every sponsor gets a free hour training. If they pay my full rate, I want to give them a bonus of that. Now that, again, I'm just putting it out there. Forget coronavirus. Ask your speakers if while they're on site at conference, you can give your speakers a VIP time with them, a meet and greet, a virtual webinar training from a hotel room. I do that all the time.
Rachel Sheerin, I have never heard of that before. Where so do you build that into your contract where the sponsors get a 1 hour free VIP training if they want that?
And it's a win-win, Kiki. I do team trainings all the time. And I specialize in, yeah, healthcare, hospitality, financial services, technology, nonprofits, and government. That really is servant-hearted people. If you like to serve other people, you're my clients. And
Yeah.
chances are, if a sponsorship company sees the value in sponsoring your event, then they're going to have a team that I'll probably want to train, or an annual sales meeting that I'll want to speak to. And it's really, it's this mindset of partnership, finding the right speakers that really see the value in that don't just see it for the short term, but that see it for the long term. And really realize, I always know an association pro, whenever I meet you guys out in the world, you're my favorites, because you know why? You show up, not when it's easy, not when it's convenient, and not for a little bit. You guys last a long time. And I don't want to have a short time. I want to have a long, good time together. And so I build a lot of that stuff in. So, you know, on a whole other level, if you have sponsors for your events that are going on right now, reach out to them. And after you speak with your speaker, say, you know what, we have Rachel Sheerin, she's your keynoter, you know, all this kind of stuff. We're not only going to do this webinar for your team right now, but you are going to get a bonus sponsorship of the webinar. She's going to be doing all membership wide, and we're helping our people have, you know, watch parties, and we're going to actually hit a larger demographic than you would have even. And by the way, at no cost additional to you, right? It's like Oprah, and you get a thing.
I love it.
It is.
I love it.
It's really, really smart. And the thing about it too is, we have to remember, at least for me, I'm very sensitive to cost. Yeah. I like to be frugal and really mind other people's monies very smartly. And one of the things that I see in associations is that we get these big ticket sponsors a lot of the time. And after a few years, it's hard to get them, because they either stay for a while and they see no return, or they stick for a while and something in the economy or their positioning changes or whatever. Well, a sponsorship needs to be something not just at the event, but year round, people are jealous of and they're hearing. But when you think about going into webinars, or you think about going into annual summits or virtual summits or courses, how different would Association Chat be if you said, hi, and welcome to Association Chat. I'm your host, Rachel Sheerin, sponsored by Hilton Hotels. Did you know that Hilton just made #1 on the Fortune 500 list for #1 employer of women and women identifying persons? That's right, 41% of C-level executives, 56%. I mean, yeah, and you're just like, and which, by the way, is true. Shout out to Hilton. They're an incredible supporter of women, and it's just incredible. But doesn't that make you think a bit differently about your sponsorship?
Okay, I want to pause here and ask everyone, what are you thinking about this so far? Have you been getting some good ideas? And while you are responding in the chat, also take a look at the polls. There are a couple of questions over in the polls, a couple of questions. I can get it out. Are you currently weighing the options of canceling or postponing an upcoming meeting? Yes or no? And have you communicated with event speakers about special arrangements should a sudden change to your event take place? Yes or no, or not applicable?
Hopefully those no's are going to be converted into yeses. Even just a quick, hey, you know, think things are fine. Just want to know, what's your plan? What's your timeline around this? You know, what would happen if? And just, you know, feel them out. And by the way, I always think, you know, I'm a director of education for an association in the weddings industry. And on every single monthly call, we talk about the speakers that have come into the local chapters. And, you know, the question is, recommend or don't recommend? And I'll tell you, the people that the association folks don't recommend, they're always people that when you ask questions like this, they go straight to the contract, or they go straight to the, well, you know, if you see on line 72, and you're like, be a real person. Like, let's be a little flexible on this. And then, of course, on the opposite side are the speakers who are just a joy to work with and super flexible. I know that's you, Kiki. You know, I mean, we're all right in the trenches, you know, with our background in events and associations and stuff like that. Like, find empathetic, great speakers. You'll be golden. If you know, stumble across one that you think their message is great, but maybe they're not the partner you're looking for, I would say that's the kind of stuff that, you know, you put in your back pocket, and it makes you a better, I think it makes you a better partner moving forward. You ever see that when, like, somebody treats you in a way and it teaches you the lesson on how not to be? That's, I think, a little bit about what we go through right now on it.
So I see some comments coming in, and then I'll give you the
Hey,
poll
Ann.
results, everyone.
Oh, I see Carmen. Hey,
I know
Marcy.
that Deidre and Carmen said some beautiful things about you. Paul, the video guy, can help you guys out with all kinds of video.
Oh, VIP session, Paul. We can record it.
Amazing.
Let's do it.
So Ann's amazing. Thank you, Ann, for being here. And she says she's currently post-cancellation. Yes, when I talked about some good friends who actually were in the air, landed, and their conference was no longer happening, that just happened to dear Ann. And so we have Joanna saying, yes, we're leaning in the direction of canceling. We wanted to go virtual, but can't turn it around that quickly. Wow. Yeah. So, and our attendees, our infectious disease docs. Yeah, they're
Thank you, Joanna, for your membership. We really appreciate you on a deep, deep level.
Oh my gosh.
And, you know, Joanna, I'd just like to say, I was in coaching, we call it pushing back. I'll push back a little bit on that in a loving way to say that, I agree with you that they probably can't attend working on the outbreak. But you know what you can do? You can do 5-minute motivations for them and shoot them out via email. If I was an infectious disease doctor, what to do when you can't fall asleep, 5 minutes. The best apps for white noise and de-stress. It could be like how to keep your cool under a panic. Joanna, we can talk about this more offline. I'm happy to put some mindset stuff to it. But Joanna, there's always going to be an opportunity because at the end of the day, associations, I could squeeze your hearts all the time. Associations live to serve other people. And it's your job, because you're the mothers and the fathers of these people, that, you're not in it, but you love it anyway. And you've got to be those caretakers to say, okay, I see you and I hear you. And you know what? You didn't even know that this was something in the top shelf of the cookie jar, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. And it can be fast. It can be voice recordings. It can be YouTube.
People are loving this. Rachel saying mental health is such a huge priority during times like this. And Joanna's saying, I love it. That's an amazing idea. Yes, because you're showing support. You're giving them something helpful. And it's that idea of giving something back. I
love it.
I have a tough question for you, Rachel, but I know that you are the queen of this. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. Erin asks, I have events that I could quickly convert to webinars or virtual. I struggle with the pricing refund question for attendees. Any thoughts? It's a toughie.
That's a great one. Well, I think there's always a few questions to ask. Is there a trickle down from my vendors? Like, is the association actually having to pay a lot of the properties, vendors, other stuff, guarantees, all that kind of stuff? Now, there's 2 ways to go. The answer is, if you do have to pay all that stuff, I'm a big fan of transparency and saying that, like, hey, listen, we would love to. But right now it's in crisis. And right now, this is the X amount of the budget that we spent on this, all that kind of stuff. I would go back to the reschedule work. A reschedule has always got to be top of mind, because it's not if you connect with your members. It's not if you gather them together. It's not if we all stay up at the hotel bar till 2 a.m. It's just when they get together. And so that might be something where once you have time to figure it out, negotiate it, transparency, if you can, it's always going to be a good idea. Letting them know. I think that if people know better, they're going to do better. So if they understand that, like, hey, listen, refunds would just completely bankrupt us, then I think a lot of people in associations would not. Or even if you have healthy coffers. Now, on the other side, if you get everything waived, this is, again, it's an opportunity to position. You can, you can maybe withhold that and apply it towards next year's. You can do it a partial refund. You can give people, I've seen this done in the corporate space, to mixed reviews, totally your call. But essentially, like those devastating tornadoes in Nashville last week, you can say something like, we can refund you, or we can hold your deposit, which is 50%, and then donate a portion to the Nashville tornadoes, and make it both a PR thing and a hands helping hands thing, that kind of thing. There's a lot of positioning around it, and I'm hesitant to say a blanket statement, because you have to ask the questions, and you also too have to understand who is asking for the refund? Because I'm going to make a bet and say that a lot of times it's going to be individual members, but their employers don't care as much. Like employers they understand a little bit more, maybe on the higher levels of how associations work, how balance sheets are supposed to work. And so this is an idea, and say, you know what, I'd love to get on a call with you and your leaders to talk through this. And I'm going to make a bet that I bet a lot of people don't do it. Because it's not the leaders that are upset. It's the people that are feeling like their leaders are going to come down on them, and they're not. The leaders are thinking about how to rebook groups. The leaders are thinking about how the supply chain effect is going to happen. The leaders are thinking about making payroll in some of these industries. I feel so freaking deeply for so many people. It's going to affect us in a big way for at least a little while longer. And I think oftentimes the cost of an association attendance is one of the last things that's on their mind. But just being proactive about it and really listening to your membership, that's going to tell you what they need and or want. And if you can, incentivize them to let them keep your money, or you to keep their money.
Does anyone listening to this feel their blood pressure normalizing at this point? Are you starting to feel a little bit less stressed about this? Yeah, Aaron saying, thank you. All good thoughts. Yes. In these situations, I always go back to do the right thing.
And I think that's going to be the title of your book when you write it.
Something I think that you said earlier that I haven't seen a lot of, actually, is this transparency. Okay, guys, here's the deal. Like this is the financial situation. It's almost like we don't want to talk about the money part. We don't want to talk about it. It's, are you safe or aren't you safe? And it's like, well, let's just step back from this. Okay, here's the situation that we have. We're facing this financially. So here's what we are planning to do. And I think you're right. I think that people will trust that because they know that there are these decisions being made. They can relate to it. They will see that you're being honest and feel like they can work with you somehow.
It's so true. And it really comes back to this idea too of anchoring, which is a negotiation strategy I teach. And essentially anchoring is this idea that when you're negotiating with somebody, we kind of have this old and inaccurate idea that the first person that says a price loses. Like, have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
Right? Well, the idea of anchoring is that when you throw something out and you anchor it, and it basically lets people know whether or not you're in the same playing field. You know, if I say, Kiki, I have this candy bar and it's $100, you might be like, wow, that must be great. Or you might be like, bye, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to the gas station. And whatever that looks like, I think that we have a great opportunity, and associations have a great opportunity right now of anchoring and saying, hey, listen, what's the first thing you're going to put out with? Because whatever you put out with, well, let me just say this, whatever you put out, poll your loudest members, poll your happiest members, and poll your most influential members. If you have a member that's responsible for recruitment, if you have a member that's responsible for leadership in your strongest chapters, if you know, and I know you all know this because it's true in all associations, if you know the people in your association that either tell people to jump and they ask how high, or they turn up the heat, or they cool down the AC, you need to ask their opinions. Take it seriously and anchor your positions. Be the first ones out of the gate and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And by the way, don't give some just BS. We're taking the coronavirus very seriously. I get the PR side of it. No one reads it. It's like a bad out of office. Don't do it.
You read the first two. And then after that, you started seeing the theme. Everyone's copying and pasting. Am I right? It's so true.
Yes, it's so true. It's so true. My dentist is like, we're taking it seriously. I'm like, I don't even care. I know I'm late on my appointment. I don't care. But at the end of the day, when you anchor, what's great about it is that, let's just be real. The people who have their opinions heard and that will influence others will be happy, and they'll influence others. They'll do their job. There's going to be a big chunk in the middle that don't even care, because let's face it, they weren't opening your emails anyway. Damn them, right? I mean, association members that aren't engaged, come on, engage with us. And then there's going to be the dissenters, the people that really are upset. And you know what? Again, in negotiation, when you anchor something, the goal is not agreement. The goal is a conversation.
Ooh.
And
Oh,
that's
so
important, right? The goal is not agreement. The goal is a conversation. And let me just ask you, when you think back, if you're watching this, live or later, have you ever had a disagreement with somebody that you care deeply about, and only when you grew closer and took the time to have that tough convo did you come out of it hugging, crying, closer, renewed? You weren't avoiding Thanksgiving dinner anymore, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This is the crossroads you have, and with any opportunity. When you make a statement, or you draw a line in the sand, or you anchor in your association, especially around money, it gives you the opportunity to have a conversation. Those dissenters, they're letting you sharpen your steel. And it gives you an opportunity to understand, what was it about what we did? Was it what we did, or is it the way we said it, or is it the way you were surprised? Would you wish that you would have had a different heads up? Like asking these questions, because at the end of the day, associations are so gloriously giving. I believe that every single person in this industry does not wake up in the morning and say, oh, I can't wait to do a bad job today. I can't wait to screw over our members. I can't wait to disappoint people and make them ask for refunds. No, they want you. I know all of you want the very best. And when you get curious around that and you have the conversation, I always like to say, instead of asking WTF, just ask why. Help your members ask the why. And welcome them with open arms. Nobody likes being pushed off when they've got questions. Just be thankful they're engaged, to be quite honest.
So what I'm appreciating right now, and then I'll tell everybody the poll results. What I'm appreciating about what you just said is that you not only laid out options for us to move forward, but you also said when you have, not if you have, when you have dissenters, because aren't there always, right? How do you best deal with them? And what is negotiation? And golden was this: in negotiation, the goal is not agreement, it's conversation. That is amazing.
And that comes from an incredible female negotiation speaker. That's Allison for Gale. Her work has been so inspirational. If you are looking for somebody in the negotiation space, she's incredible. I do some training around it, but she is the master. And in that conversation, there's also an incredible book out there called Women Don't Ask. I have it somewhere around here. I keep it on me all the time. It is a Bible, especially as a women identifying person, to really understand the biases against us when we negotiate, and strategies to really to kind of not toughen up, but to feel more powerful as ourselves in negotiation. Highly recommend. It's called Women Don't Ask. I'll put it in the chat.
I think my association chat book club is, except for one person, all female. So I might be forcing that one on everybody coming up. I'll have
It's incredible. It's really good. And a lot of academia, full disclosure, but if you read one chapter, it'll make you a better negotiator, and you will see that translate into so much success.
Okay, so poll results so far, you guys. We have, are you currently weighing the options of canceling or postponing an upcoming meeting? We have 77.8% saying yes, we are. I am in the process of doing that. And then we have 22.2% saying no. And have you communicated with event speakers about special arrangements should a sudden change to your event take place? We have 55.6% saying yes, 22.2% saying no, and 22.2% saying doesn't really apply to me right now. So, I think that we've gotten some really great ideas. I know that because I'm working with Vanessa next week, I've got ideas about ways that we can work together. I am so super excited. Rachel, so when people are wanting to, reach out to you and get more information, I know that I'm going to have the handout. I'm going to okay, so everyone who's on this will be receiving a link to the handout. You can get more information there. After this, once the video is available, I'm going to upload it to the website. And the website will have not just a summary of our conversation today, but you can actually watch the replay, and you can also download, or you'll have the link to the download from there, and additional information like links to the book that Rachel's mentioned and everything. So you can go to associationchat.com. But where can people go and get more information from you? Because I'm betting that after talking with us today, they're going to want to figure out how can they go and get more Rachel.
I would love that. You can come hang out with me anywhere. I'm on. I post a lot on Instagram. If you're a big dog person, I have a really great dog. If you're a hot husband person, I have a very hot husband. So they're on there a lot, and you can follow along with my adventures. And then I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn. But if you visit my site for that guide, I actually do a lot of newsletters, and so that's a lot of times. If you like kind of a Monday margarita in your inbox every single week, whether it's mindset or sales or just something to make you smile, that's a great place to keep in touch. But my email is simply hi at rachelsheerin.com, and Sheerin is Sheeran. Drop me a line, let me know. I'm traveling. You can see on my website all the places I'm coming up for gigs. I'd love to grab a drink, a coffee, we can commiserate. But Kiki, thanks for the opportunity. I think we're kindred. We're high energy, big hearted, and we're open books. I really am. So after you read the guide, if I'm missing something, you have a question, you want me to walk you through a tutorial, you want to talk about, working together, it's sponsorships, whatever it can be. I'm here to help. This isn't for the short time, it's for the long time. And I would say that if you could change one thing about moving forward, I would say, adjusting your mindset. You don't have to do this. You get to do this. You get to jump into the 21st century. You get to provide video content, which we all hear everybody says. And you also too get to usher in a lot of those dissenters that might be resistant to this kind of stuff. Listen, the facts are in. Make sure that when you're signing contracts for the future, that you do, make sure that you're protected for future things like this. We are working in such a global economy. My European gigs, they're off the map right now. And it's one of those things where I'm hesitant to say it's the new norm, but this can either be a heartache or a lesson. I think it's a lesson. Make sure that, you're asking these questions to the speakers and the education providers you're partnering with, so that you at least know before you sign on the line what kind of partner they're going to be, how flexible they're going to be, and really what they're able to do for you. Because listen, I always make the joke. I'm like, banks have a lot of money. We're good with the banks, but associations, you have my heart, and you are the caretakers of your members. So when you're doing that, just make sure that you're asking questions. You come from such a great place. I'm happy to answer any of them and be a partner. And thanks for having me on, Kiki. I loved chatting with you. I just wish I was in DC.
Chatting with you too. And I really, really appreciate the way that you can sort of turn around this black and white thinking and allow us to think about options, to think about different ways where we can really position ourselves in a place where we can do things more in a more creative spirit, in a more collaborative spirit. And I personally am walking away from this with ideas that I can use, and with the idea that this really is turning a challenge into an opportunity. And so you have the opportunity, all of us have the opportunity now to be able to make this something where we can lead by example, and we can show that we are the types of people and the types of organizations that our members, that our clients, that our collaborators can trust in and work with. And that's beautiful. That's an amazing thing. So I want to, yay! So I want to say thanks to everyone here. I hope you learned something helpful today that will help you and help your organizations. Please join us next time. And if you want to find out any additional information or want to stay on top of what's going on with Association Chat, you can always go to associationchat.com and sign up for the mailing list, and that will help you to stay on top of new things as they come out. Will there be a recording shared of this call? Well, yes, there will be.
Great question, Kat.
And so
you're a woman on the way to my heart. A little bit belated, no problem. Just look at it at the end.
There will be a recording available, and you can also check out the audio version when you subscribe to the podcast on any of your preferred podcast players. So the audio version will come out a little bit later, though. Perfect. So until next time, everyone, keep learning every day. As Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you,
guys on the road.
Thank you, Rachel.
Good luck, everybody.
All right. Mwah.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. Okay, Kelly, I see you. Before we jump off, where do we find the webinar resource info? Okay, so the webinar resource info, I'm going to email it to everyone who's registered here because I have your email addresses, and so I'll be able to send it out through here. I have a link. And then I will also be able to post it at associationchat.com. If you go over there right now, you'll see the #1 story underneath COVID-19 resources is about this webinar, and I'll have a link posted there for it too. All right. Bye, everyone.